Welcome back to the historic heart of the Croatian capital Zagreb for the second part of Europe District. As Croatia is set to join the European Union in July next year, we continue our journey through this vibrant Balkan nation. We'll meet the country's milk farmers. As you will see, they're not among the most Euro enthusiastic. They fear new European rules will damage their businesses. And we'll meet Renata Poljak, the country's most famous video artist. She will show you Zagreb like you've never seen it before. But we'll start with our new sequence in the program, Beyond the Borders. Croatia's eastern borders will soon become the new borders of the European Union. It will be the responsibility of Zagreb to secure them. Well, let's travel to the city of Metković, on the border between Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. There, as you will see, joint police units work together to tackle illegal immigration and smuggling.
Heading out on the beat at Metković police station, Boris is Croatian, and today he's on patrol with a Bosnian colleague. Nedjeljko is based at the station in Doljani, in neighbouring Bosnia and Herzegovina. They're heading for the nearby border. The two officers are used to working together.
The two police forces share information with each other. When he's not on a joint patrol, my colleague's working for the Bosnian police force, but we stay in contact.
Their first job of the day, monitoring a dirt track that straddles the border. It's often used to smuggle in illegal goods from Bosnia. The joint patrols have put a concrete block at the entrance to the track to prevent smugglers' cars from getting across.
This way you can only cross on foot or on a bicycle. Cars can't use this route anymore to get into Croatia or into Bosnia.
Back at the Metković station, two Bosnian border police chiefs are meeting with a Croatian counterpart.
It's the job of both of us to prevent crime and illegal immigration. There's also the notorious Balkan drug trafficking route. We have to cooperate if we want to see any results.
That cooperation has been going on since 2008. 20 years after the war that pitted Croats against Bosnian Muslims, the police forces have treated the chance to collaborate as a healthy challenge.
The members of the joint patrols come from all ethnic groups. Everyone is represented. For the time being, we've never had any complaints.
Nije bilo nikakvih ni prijava, ništa.
In the Bosnian police, we had a transitional period. But today, there's real respect for our differences.
Boris and Nedjeljko are back on patrol. The national border runs through the Croatian town of Metković, meaning part of its suburbs lie in neighbouring Bosnia. That makes it hard to monitor the flow of migrants crossing the border, particularly at night.
Here we've had a lot of illegal immigration. For the most part, they're people from former Yugoslavia. A lot of Kosovars.
The fight against illegal immigration is the joint police force's biggest challenge. In 2013, this border will become the gateway to the European Union. So in Metković, the police are getting ready. Despite the district sharing a 140-kilometre-long border with Bosnia, the number of illegal migrants crossing into Croatia each year has fallen from 200 to only 80 since the joint patrols were launched.
With the European Union membership, Croatia will no longer be a transit country. It will become a final destination for illegal migrants. Before, they just passed through Croatia on their way into the European Union.
Boris and Nedjeljko often patrol this street that runs along the border.
Here we're kind of in Bosnia, kind of in Croatia.
Some residents here are apprehensive about Croatia joining the European Union, and they share their worries with Boris and Nedjeljko.
We don't know whether we'll have a barbed wire fence here. It wouldn't be very pleasant.
They're also afraid of a wave of migrants from neighbouring countries crossing the border. For the police officers, it's often a means of obtaining precious information.
They tell us if, for example, they see increased numbers of people who they don't know, then we can focus our attention on that area. It's a long border, so we can't be everywhere.
A 932-kilometre-long border separates Bosnia from Croatia, and soon from the European Union. Croatia hopes to join the Schengen free circulation zone in 2015.
They're not among Croatia's most Euro-enthusiastic. The country's milk farmers are worried new European rules will damage their businesses. So far, they've relied on generous state subsidies, but they fear those won't be matched by Brussels under Europe's common agriculture policy.
Go, get inside. What's wrong with you?
It's daybreak, and as usual, the beginning of a very long day. Milking the cows is a job Božica has to do alone. She has 3 children and has had to come to terms with working long hours.
We're sometimes up until midnight, and it's like that almost all the time. Only in the winter we tend to stay inside a bit more, but the rest of the time it's tough. That's our day.
Yet despite working all day long, Božica and her husband Stjepan no longer make a profit on sales of their milk.
It seems that one day we'll have to stop production.
Like many farmers, Stjepan sells his milk to Ducat, Croatia's biggest dairy processing company. In 2009, an agreement between the government, farmers and dairy companies fixed the price at which businesses bought milk from farms at 35 euro cents per litre. To this, the state adds 12 cents in additional subsidy, meaning farmers receive a total of 47 cents for every litre sold. Today, the processing companies want a cut in the purchasing price. They say they're struggling to stay competitive, faced with cheap imports from Serbia and Bosnia.
In the last 2 years, Croatia has been the only country to have an agreement fixing prices. This year, we've tried to create a system where milk prices reflect market prices.
The plan has sparked anger among Croatian farmers. The Dairy Producers Union says they'll oppose adoption of the new rule.
93% of the milk produced in Croatia is of excellent quality. They want it to be the same price as the milk from Eastern European countries like Bosnia or other Balkan countries. But you can't compare our milk with theirs.
With Croatia joining the European Union, the existing government subsidies will be phased out. But the country will then benefit from the EU's common agricultural policy, Brussels giving 373 million euros in handouts a year to the Croatian farming sector for the next 10 years. It's a radical shake-up, welcomed with open arms by the Croatian government.
These subsidies aren't the norm within the European Union, and our producers have to get used to that. It's particularly important to make sure that there's a sufficient quantity of farmland so that farmers can benefit from the subsidies calculated according to the area they farm. That way they can produce good quality animal feed more cheaply.
Animal feed represents one of Stjepan's biggest costs. For 2 months now, he's been running a loss of 20%.
Today I have to bring down my running costs while boosting my production as much as I can.
EU membership could be a new lease of life for struggling farmers like Stjepan and Božica. On top of common agricultural policy handouts, Croatia is also set to receive 3.5 billion euros in European structural funds between 2013 and 2015. Money the Croatian government set to invest in modernising the country's infrastructure.
And it's time for our cultural sequence. This huge building is the Museum of Contemporary Art. This is where we meet our guide. Her name is Renata Poljak. She's Croatia's most successful multimedia artist. We were supposed to meet here. Here she is. Renata, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Christophe. Welcome. So this is a museum of contemporary art. It's like the biggest museum in the region, and there is a great show in it. So please, let's go.
I'll follow you. Yeah, this is a big museum, and I can see your latest work. It's called Staging Actors, Staging Beliefs.
Exactly. I'm very considerate about this fact in what do we believe today. Especially because I was living in Yugoslavia until the age of 17, and I really completely believed in Tito, and I believed in socialism, and I believe in communism, and I believed in Yugoslavia. And then one day, like, it just goes like, no, all your childhood was wrong. you didn't believe in good things, you have to believe in something else now. But actually in this work, I did find the actor who played the main role of Boško Buha. Boško Buha was the main character in the film, which became a cult film in my childhood, and actually speaks about the young child, who, like a partisan, who was 15 years old, and he became like a Yugoslavian hero. He was fighting against the Germans and against the fascism. And the person who played Boško Buha when he was 15 years old, actually 10 years after went to the real war, because the war came.
Da mi je dužnost kao domoljuba sudjelovati u tom ratu i nepotrebna, nametnuta, umjetna tvorevina. Usporedio bih je sa Sovjetskim savezom koji su nazivali tamnicom naroda.
So he, in his real life, went to the war and he went to fight Yugoslavia. While during the film he was explaining to me, and I was a child back then, that Yugoslavia is the best you can have.
Our next stop is Mirogoj, one of the most beautiful cemeteries in Europe. It reminds me of Père Lachaise in Paris. This is where famous Croatians are buried, including ultra-nationalist leader Franjo Tuđman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is actually the first time coming to this like sort of monument in a way. This is like a tomb to Franjo Tuđman. Franjo Tuđman was a very controversial person, and of course as the first president of Croatia, he is like the greatest person here for some people, and thanks to him we have Croatia today. But on the other side we had to go through the war. That's the reason why lots of people consider him as a war criminal.
A lot of people died during the war. He played the nationalist card. He's also famous for having revived fascist symbols from the Ustashi regime that sided with the Nazis during the Second World War. Is fascism still a problem here in Croatia?
Well, I think it is. I don't think it's the fascism in this kind of like old sense, like against Jewish, but like against the others. Because everything which is different from being Croatian or being Catholic, they don't really think good of it. So like this is the reason why I want to make the workshop, which is called The Others.
Mm-hmm. You'll organize a workshop with young people. What do you want to tell them?
Well, actually, what I would really like to work on is this kind of like, for example, there was a gay pride in Split in 2011, so this spring, and it was a very, very violent thing. They showed fascist signs, and they actually like took the stones and like put the stones on people. And I was thinking, oh my God, it's like in 2011, this is still happening. This really hurt me very much. And then the problem is that the young people, they don't know anything about this. They don't want to think about that.
So Renata, we're back in the heart of Zagreb on Zrinjevac, one of the most elegant squares of your city. It was built in the late 19th century when Zagreb was one of the capitals of the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Exactly. No, Zrinjevac is one of my favorite places, I think, in Zagreb. It's a very, very green area and very calm, and it's in the middle of the city. Well, actually, the architect, urbanist from the late 19th century, Lenozzi, there is like even a bar there which has his name. It's a very nice cafe though. And so he made something which we call here Zagrebačka Potkova, which actually means Zagreb horseshoe. The Zagreb horseshoe starts actually here in Zrinjevac and makes this kind of U sign and finishes with the theater, with the National Theater on the other side. Here we have the music pavilion, which is one of my favorite parts in Zagreb, and it's full of joy in a way. Christophe, this is, as you can see, the very nice flower market in the middle of Zagreb. It's normally a very, very sunny place, and with all these bars and cafes. So like the yellow papers, they always see with who do you sit, in case you're a little bit famous, and there's like all
Who do you sit with?
With my friends, if I go. And right now we are going to walk here, and then we are going to go up to the upper town of Zagreb, and we are going to take a really nice and very lovely elevator. The old
elevator.
Exactly. Yeah, this one.
This is St. Mark's Square, a very emblematic place in the capital of Croatia.
Yeah, actually this is the square which I always see when I put the TV on, in a way. You know, it's like, I think it's because of this fantastic roof we have here, which is very, you know, like very colorful. On the first side there is like this, it's a symbol of Croatia, Dalmatia and Slavonia, and on the other side it's Zagreb. This roof was made like in the 19th century, but what is really the most beautiful about this church is this wooden door. So this square symbolizes power, because here we have parliament on the one side, and the other side we have Prime Minister's office. So this is where the whole power comes out from, you know.
Renata, the Museum of Broken Relationships, it's the most talked about museum in Zagreb these days.
Yeah, for me it's the most funny museum actually. What they did is like they started in 2006 and they did lots of exhibitions, and then during these exhibitions people gave them, they donate them like the private personal objects, like it would symbolize for them this divorce situation, you know.
Failed relationships.
Exactly.
It's a collection of items you don't want to remember, you don't want to see again, and it's done with a lot of humor.
Exactly. I think actually people who donate these kind of things, they by themselves have lots of humor, you know. So
yes.
That's in a way something.
I can see this one.
Thank you.
The unopened candy G-string, it says here, I didn't mind because I loved him, but after 4 years he turned out to be as cheap and shabby as his presents. There are also handcuffs, I can see.
Yeah, exactly. There are lots of things.
I hope you've never donated anything here.
Not yet.
Let's hope you won't have to.
Yeah, normally I just threw away my things, but you know, now in this museum, you never know. And this is like the most funny thing.
What's that? I kind of recognize this guy. It's a former prime minister, right?
Exactly. People were really disappointed by him, and he promised to do something and he never did. So instead of giving him the painting, they actually donated it to the Museum of Broken Relationships.
The story of a politician who failed to deliver. Renata, thank you so much for having shown us your Zagreb. It was a very personal visit. We'll leave you with a broken heart. We hope to see you very soon.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of Europe District. Please stay tuned on France 24. Now we'll return next month as we continue our journey across the Balkans.